History tells us that some ancient cities were abandoned because of war or disaster, but this city was different. There were no signs of invasion, no bodies, no destruction, just buildings left perfectly intact, as if everyone vanished at the exact same moment. And buried beneath its streets was a symbol that was never meant to be found again. The city stood for centuries without ever being conquered. Its walls were strong, its gates untouched, and its people were known for discipline rather than war. Archaeologists later found no traces of fire, no collapsed defenses, and no evidence of panic. Homes were left organized. Tools were neatly placed. Even food was found stored as if the citizens expected to return. But they never did. And what disturbed researchers most was this. The city showed signs of being deliberately abandoned, not destroyed, which raised a terrifying question. What could force an entire city to leave without a fight? Beneath the city, archaeologists discovered a sealed underground chamber. The entrance was intentionally hidden, reinforced with stone far heavier than necessary. There were no markings explaining its purpose, only warnings carved in a forgotten dialect. The deeper the team descended, the colder the air became. And strangely, the walls showed signs of repeated sealing, as if the chamber had been reopened and closed again. Whatever lay inside was not forgotten by accident. It was hidden over and over, and then they realized this chamber was built after the city itself. At the center of the chamber was a single symbol carved into solid stone. It didn't match any known language, religion, or empire. But when researchers began comparing records, something unsettling emerged. The same symbol appeared in distant ruins across deserts, mountains, and oceans. Civilizations that had no contact with one another had carved the exact same mark. Always hidden, always sealed away, and always associated with sudden abandonment. That was when historians stopped calling it a coincidence. Ancient texts hinted at a secret order never named directly, never fully described. Their role was not to rule, but to contain. They believed certain knowledge was dangerous enough to destroy civilizations simply by being known. When the symbol appeared, their response was always the same: evacuate the city, seal the chamber, and erase every record of their existence. History remembers empires, but it forgets the ones that chose silence over survival. But this time, the silence didn't hold. On the final wall of the chamber, archaeologists found a message unlike the others. It wasn't a prayer, it wasn't a curse. It was a warning addressed not to their people, but to whoever would discover it next. The message ended with a chilling line: "We did not disappear, we stepped aside." And suddenly, the abandoned city no longer felt empty. It felt patient, because whatever they were hiding was never meant to stay buried forever. As they moved deeper underground, the tunnel ended abruptly, blocked by a wall that shouldn't have existed. The stones were enormous, each one carved so precisely that not even a blade could slip between them. No mortar, no cracks, no signs of erosion. Archaeologists stared in silence, realizing this wall had survived thousands of years untouched by time itself. And yet, something felt wrong. This wasn't a defensive structure. It wasn't meant to keep enemies out. It was built to seal something in. One symbol on the wall was still warm to the touch. The symbol etched into the wall was instantly familiar. Not because it was common, but because it appeared everywhere. The same mark had been found in ruins across South America, deep in the deserts of Egypt, and carved into forgotten temples in Southeast Asia. Different cultures, different continents. Yet the symbol never changed. Historians had long dismissed it as. But standing here, deep underground, the truth. The symbol wasn't cultural. It was instructional. The symbol wasn't decorative, it pointed downward. Beneath the wall, the stone floor gave way to a hidden shaft. Stone steps spiraled downward into complete darkness, far deeper than the tunnel itself. This wasn't part of the original cave. It had been carved deliberately, precisely long after the earth had settled. The deeper they descended, the colder the air became. The silence felt unnatural, as if sound itself refused to travel further. Whatever lay below wasn't just buried. It was intentionally forgotten. Their instruments began to malfunction, compasses spinning wildly. At the bottom of the shaft, they entered a vast, circular chamber. The air felt heavy, thick, almost resisting movement. Dust particles hung motionless, suspended as if time itself had slowed. Stone pillars surrounded the room, each carved with symbols depicting the sky, the sun, and unfamiliar constellations. This wasn't a tomb, it wasn't a temple. It was a place designed to control something far beyond ritual. The longer they stood there, the more disoriented they became. Minutes felt stretched, heartbeats felt delayed. A recording device showed they had been inside for hours, not minutes. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone structure, part altar, part containment vault. Its surface was covered in the same symbol found across the world. But this time, the carvings were different. They weren't instructions, they were warnings. As light swept across the stone, a faint silhouette became visible inside, humanoid in shape, yet unmistakably wrong. This wasn't a god. And it wasn't human. Whatever had been sealed here wasn't meant to be worshipped. It was meant to never be released. A hairline fracture slowly spread across the stone. Beneath the ruins, they discovered something no map had ever recorded. A chamber so vast it shouldn't have existed beneath stone that old. The walls weren't decorated with familiar symbols. No gods, no kings, no language historians recognized. Instead, there were spirals, angles, and star-like patterns carved with mathematical precision. This wasn't art. It was instruction. Every line repeated at exact intervals, as if the builders were following rules, not beliefs. And at the center of the chamber there was nothing. No statue, no altar, just empty space. As if something had once stood there and had been deliberately removed. The floor markings suggested whatever was taken was not meant to leave. When researchers scanned the chamber, something unexpected happened. The instruments picked up a frequency, low, rhythmic, repeating. At first they thought it was seismic noise, but the pattern was too perfect. When the sound echoed through the chamber, the symbols reacted. Dust lifted, shadows shifted. The carvings seemed to respond, as if they had been waiting. This structure wasn't just built to be seen, it was built to be activated. And the frequency matched something chilling, the natural resonance of the human voice. It meant the chamber wasn't sealed by force, it was silenced. As the chamber was studied, historians noticed something else. Every written record from nearby civilizations ended the same way, abruptly. Chronicles stopped mid-sentence. Genealogies skipped generations. Entire rulers vanished from history without explanation. This wasn't coincidence. It was coordination. Different cultures, different languages, all choosing to forget the same thing at the same time. The chamber wasn't just hidden underground. It was erased from memory above it. And the erasure happened after the structure was already abandoned. Only one inscription remained untouched. Hidden deep in a passage most explorers missed. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't symbolic. It was a warning. Translated loosely, it didn't speak of destruction or punishment. It spoke of return. The builders didn't fear gods. They feared repetition. They believed what they had built once could be built again. The warning wasn't meant for their generation. It was meant for ours. Today, the site is closed to the public. Official reports call it structurally unstable. But no one explains why research stopped overnight, or why the chamber no longer appears in academic journals. The question historians avoid isn't what the structure was, it's why it was never finished. Because according to the markings, the chamber wasn't abandoned due to collapse or invasion, it was abandoned because it worked. And whatever it was designed to call, never arrived. Behind the sealed corridor, they discovered a chamber no record had ever mentioned. The walls were untouched by time, as if sealed deliberately, not buried by nature. Symbols covered every surface, repeating the same warning in different forms. This was not a tomb, it was a vault. And whatever had been locked inside was never meant to be found again. As the symbols were decoded, the story changed completely. This civilization had not collapsed from war or disaster. They had made a choice to erase themselves, to hide their knowledge. to disappear before something they created could escape their control. At the center stood a structure no ancient culture should have been able to build, part machine, part monument. It was not a weapon, but it was powerful. The text described it as a tool that altered perception, memory, and belief itself, a technology capable of reshaping reality without violence. They realized the danger came not from enemies, but from humanity itself. If this knowledge spread, it would be abused. Empires would rise too fast, belief systems would collapse. So they erased their own names, destroyed their cities, and vanished so the world could develop naturally. The final inscription was not a record, it was a warning. This knowledge ends civilizations before it saves them. The chamber was sealed once more, official reports were rewritten, and history remained unchanged. But the question still lingers. What if this wasn't the first civilization to make that choice? History tells us this story ended here, but the truth is, this was only the beginning. Many records were destroyed. Many names were erased. And some discoveries were never meant to be found by everyone. If you want to uncover the next Forbidden chapter, the one history tried hardest to hide, stay with this channel. The next story is already waiting.